In this experiment, we are going to discuss about identification of electronic components. The aim of this experiment is to identify electronic components, that is resistor, capacitor, inductor, transformer, diode, Zener diode, LED, transistors, ICs, D-type connectors, BNC connector, crocodile clip, banana plug, coaxial cable and the fiber optic cable. The objectives of this experiment are: at the end of the experiment, the student should be able to identify active and passive components and identify the various types of cables and the connectors. So if we discuss about electronic components, they are divided into two categories. The one is the active components and the another is the passive components. How we define active components? An electronic component which supplies energy to the circuit. By the name itself, the idea is, as these are the active components, so they are going to supply energy to the circuit. That's why they are called as the active components. The example of active components we can consider, for example, all the voltage sources, current sources, generator, the different type of transistors and the different type of diodes. They fall in the category called as active components. And what about the passive components? Electronic components which can only receive energy. That means they cannot provide any gain, no amplification, no oscillation. So they are not going to generate any signal. They just receive energy, and that particular energy that is dissipated or absorbed or stored in the form of electrostatic field or electromagnetic field. So all the RLC components, that is resistor, inductor, capacitor, then the transformer, all these components fall in the category called as the passive components. So we are going to discuss about some of the active and the passive components, and here is the list. We will be going to discuss about resistor, inductor, capacitor, transformer, diode, Zener diode, light emitting diode, bipolar junction transistor and the integrated circuit. Then we will be going to discuss about some cables and connectors, in which we will be going to cover about a D-type connector, BNC connector, crocodile clip, banana connector, coaxial cable and the fiber optic cable. So first component, that is the basic component used in almost all the circuits and the projects, that is the resistor. So how we define resistor? As we have already discussed that this is a passive electronic component. So we can define resistor as a passive electronic component that opposes the flow of current through a particular circuit. And what are the units of resistor? That is ohms. And for the large value of resistance, we can say units we can take as kilo ohms or mega ohms. So basically we have two type of resistor. One is the fixed resistor and the another is the variable resistor. So fixed resistor provide the fixed value of resistance, and this is the symbolic notation for the fixed resistor, and this is the symbolic notation of variable resistor. And here we can see practically this is the fixed resistor and this is the variable resistor. So variable resistor provides a range of resistance values, and we can vary the value of resistance with the help of this potentiometer, or this is also called as pot meter or simply a pot, or this is sometimes we can say we can also use here the rheostat, and by which we can change the value of resistance as per our requirement. And practically we can see the resistors with the different power rating. So if we see all these three resistances, so color coding in all these three resistances are same, yet the power rating is different. That means they are going to provide the same value of resistance but with the different power rating. That can be 1 watt, 0.5 watt or 0.25 watt. So fixed resistor value, how we can calculate? In the resistor we have the color coding that can be 4-band code or 5-band code. In the 4-band code we can see color coding with the 3 bands for the calculation of value and the 4th band for the tolerance. So first 2 color bands are taken in terms of first 2 digits, and the 3rd band is taken as multiplier, and the 4th band is considered for the tolerance. And in the case of 5-band code, the first 3 digit values are taken as it is, 4th band value is considered as multiplier, and the 5th color band is considered as tolerance. So how we calculate the value of fixed resistor, that is based on the principle, very easy to remember, you must have already gone through this, that is B.B. Roy of Great Britain have a very good wife, where we can see with this table we can understand the first color code, that is corresponding to black value with the digit value 0. Second is brown with the value 1. Then third is red with the value 2. Then fourth is orange with the value 3. The next one is yellow with the value 4. The next is green with the value 5. The next is blue with the value 6. The next is violet with the value 7. The next is gray with the value 8. And the last one is white with the value 9. And here we can see the tolerance. In the tolerance there may be a particular color, so if there is a color, so we can go with these digits, and otherwise except all these colors we can have gold or silver, or if there is no color also, that may be the case. So for the gold plate we have 5% tolerance plus minus, for silver we have plus minus 10% tolerance, and if there is no color present then the tolerance is considered as plus minus 20%. So how we define tolerance? Tolerance means this much of percentage, like if it is plus minus 5%, so in the original value we calculate the 5% of original value. So in the original value the 5% value need to be added and need to be subtracted to get a particular range, and in that particular range if the value we get, that particular value is acceptable in the circuit. But if the value that is not falling in that particular range we have calculated, that means that is not considered for the circuit, and that leads to some malfunctionality of circuit, because the expectation from a particular resistance value, that should be in the ideal value, that can be the ideal value, or that can be in the range of plus minus tolerance of that particular ideal value. And if the value goes beyond the limit, that means that is not acceptable, or that will give you some wrong result or error. For example, this is the resistor we can see here with the color band. First band is yellow, then second band here is, that is violet, and the third band here is the brown. So fourth band we can see here, that is the gold line. So how we can calculate the value of this resistance? First we see the first band, that is yellow, and for yellow the digit is 4. So we write the first digit as 4. Then second color band is violet, and for violet we have the digit 7. So second digit will be considered as 7. So we have two digits, that is 4 and the 7. So first two bands are taken in terms of digits as 47, and the third band, that is brown, is considered to be multiplier. So 47 into 10 raised to power, this is the value brown is 1. So 47 into 10 raised to power 1. So we get the value 47 into 10 raised to power 1 is 470 ohms. And as the fourth color band, that is gold, so tolerance here is 5%. So we get the resistor value, that is 470 ohm plus minus 5%. The next component is capacitor, and this is also the passive electronic component, and it is a two terminal passive electronic component that stores the energy in the form of electrostatic field. Or another way we can define the capacitor as two parallel metallic plates separated by dielectric or the insulator. So example of metal that we can take as aluminium or copper, and for the dielectric material we can take the example as glass, ceramic, plastic film, air, paper or the mica. So in the case of capacitor, the property here is that the capacitor passes AC and blocks DC. So what is the benefit of this property of capacitor? We can use the capacitor in the filter circuits so that we can smooth the power supply, because when we pass the AC signal to the rectifier circuit, so obviously we get DC, but that DC is not the pure DC, that is the pulsating DC and containing some ripple content. So with the help of filter circuit we can smooth those ripple content and we get the pure DC. So in that particular filter circuit we utilize the capacitor with the property that it passes AC and blocks DC. So capacitor can be connected in parallel with the circuit to get the filtered power supply, that is the smooth power supply at the output. And we have basically two types of capacitor. One is the fixed capacitor and the another is the variable capacitor. This is the symbol for the fixed capacitor and this is the symbol for the variable capacitor. And here we can see the different types of capacitor. This is the mica capacitor here, then this is a ceramic capacitor, this is the electrolytic capacitor, then here we have the paper capacitor, and air gang capacitor can also be there. Like this is the variable capacitor we can see here. So what are the units of capacitance? That is the farads, and that can lies in microfarads for the small value of capacitance. So basically similar to the capacitor, another component here is the inductor. So inductor is also called as the choke coil or the reactor. So what is the basic difference between the capacitor and inductor? Like capacitor stores the energy in the form of electrostatic field, inductor stores the energy in the form of electromagnetic field. So how inductor works? Basically, an inductor consists of insulated wire wound into a coil, and when the current flowing through the coil changes, the time varying magnetic field that is induced, and that induced an EMF in the conductor, and as described by the Faraday's law of induction. So according to Lenz's law, the induced voltage has a polarity which opposes the change in the current that created it. As a result, inductor opposes any change in the current flowing through the circuit. So here we can see the different type of inductors and the units of inductance, that is henries, and the same similar to the capacitor, the inductors are also used in the electronic filter circuits to smooth the DC, and the property of inductor that is different from capacitor. Like capacitor passes AC and blocks DC, but the inductor that passes DC and blocks AC. So inductors are connected in series in the filter circuit so that they can pass DC and block AC components, and they are also used for tuning purpose. In the tuning circuits of radio and TV receivers we can see inductors and capacitors. Then next component is the transformer. So transformer is basically a passive circuit again that transfers the electrical energy from one circuit to the another circuit, and basic principle it works on the electromagnetic induction. And we can have two type of transformer, one is to step up and the another is to step down the voltage level. And this is the symbolic notation of transformer, and in specifically in the electronic circuits we use the center tap transformer. This is the pictorial representation of center tap transformer. Here we can see the primary windings. In the primary side we supply 220 volts, and this is the secondary side, in which we can see here three terminals. On the secondary side, this is considered to be top of secondary, this is considered to be bottom of secondary, and this particular terminal is called as the center tap terminal. So basically center tap transformer that is used in the center tap rectifier circuit, that is the center tap full wave rectifier. So how transformer works, like we have discussed, in the transformer we have two type of winding, primary winding and the secondary winding. So to the primary winding we supply the alternating electrical source. So when AC signal that is supplied on the primary side, and the when AC current that passes through the primary winding, it produces a continuously changing and the alternating flux that surrounds the winding. And if the another winding, that is secondary winding, is brought closer to this winding, so some portion of this alternating flux that will link with the secondary winding. So as this flux is continuously changing, so obviously there will be changing flux linkage in the secondary winding. And according to the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, the EMF will be induced in the secondary winding. And if we have the closed circuit to the secondary winding, then obviously current start flowing in the circuit. So this is the basic working principle of transformer. Then next component, that is the PN junction diode. This is the symbolic notation of PN junction diode, and by the name itself, idea is the p-type extrinsic semiconductor and the n-type extrinsic semiconductor, they are joined together with the help of fabrication process, and two leads are taken out. So this is called as the PN junction diode, and practically the diode looks like this. And the number we can see on the PN junction diode, that is 1N4007, and the black side, this is considered as anode, positive side, and the gray side, this is considered as cathode, that is the negative side. And it is the property of diode that the current flows from P to N, that is positive to negative. In the diode we have the property that is called as the unidirectional conducting property of the diode. That means diode conducts from P to N but not from N to P. So in the PN junction diode, if we see inside the p-type extrinsic semiconductor and the n-type extrinsic semiconductor, then we can see here the various types of charge carriers. Like in the p-type extrinsic semiconductor, the majority charge carriers are holes, minority charge carriers are electrons, and the immobile negative ions. Similarly, on the n side, we have the majority charge carriers as electrons, the minority charge carriers are holes, and the immobile positive ions. So when we construct the PN junction diode, so automatically if there is no potential applied in the circuit, that means no biasing is provided in the circuit, then the diffusion process will start. What is diffusion? Diffusion means the movement of charge carriers from the high concentration to the low concentration. As we have discussed that in the p-type, the majority charge carriers are holes, and in the n-type, the holes are the minority charge carriers. So obviously there will be movement of holes from P to N. Similarly, in the n-type, the majority charge carriers are electrons and the minority charge carriers are holes. So there is movement of electrons from N to P. So when they move in the opposite direction, holes from P to N and electrons from N to P. So because of this diffusion process, the charge carriers will recombine near the junction and the junction becomes neutral. Junction is just containing ions. Here the immobile negative ions and here the immobile positive ions. So because of the accumulation of only ions in the area near the junction, a depletion layer is formed at the junction. So basically this depletion layer is acting as barrier for the free charge carriers, and the further movement of charge carriers is stopped when the electrical field established at the junction, that is 0.7 volt for the silicon and 0.3 volt for the germanium. So after establishing a potential difference of 0.7 or 0.3, the further movement of charge carriers will be stopped. Then if we apply the biasing in the circuit, so we can apply two type of biasing. One is the forward biasing and the another is the reverse biasing. In the forward biasing, the P type is connected to positive potential of the battery and the N type is connected to negative potential of the battery. So in that case, as we are applying the force, that is the electrical field, that is opposite to the potential barrier. So if we apply voltage here, that is minimum, that is equal to the electric field established here, that is 0.7 volt for silicon and 0.3 volt for germanium. So if minimum this particular voltage applied here is 0.7 or 0.3 depending upon the material, and after that if we further increase this voltage, so this particular barrier will get breakdown and the free charge carriers will be able to cross the junction and they are able to go through the complete closed loop. In this way, current starts to flow in the device and the conduction takes place. And if we go for the reverse biasing, that means P is connected to negative potential and the N is connected to positive potential. So as we are applying the electrical field that is in the same direction of barrier, so in this way barrier that is going to increase and there is no movement of free charge carriers through the junction. So obviously if the free charge carriers they are not able to flow in the complete closed loop, so obviously there is no current in the device. Still in the reverse biasing, very small amount of current flows through the circuit and that is because of the minority charge carriers. Because of this potential, the minority charge carriers they will be able to cross the junction and because of them there is small amount of current and that particular current is called as the reverse saturation current or the leakage current. So in the graph we can see here in the forward biasing initially the current is very small, almost negligible, but if we apply the voltage equivalent to knee voltage, that is 0.7 volt for silicon and 0.3 volt for the germanium, then the barrier gets break down and the conduction takes place in the device and significant rise in the current level takes place. And if we go for the reverse biasing, so in the reverse biasing the current is very small, that is due to only minority charge carriers. So this current is limited here, that lies in the range microamperes. So why this current is limited? Because that is due to minority charge carriers. And why this is called as saturation current? Because minority charge carriers they are dependent upon temperature. So at a constant temperature the minority charge carriers are constant, that's why current due to them that is also constant. But if we apply very large reverse breakdown reverse voltage, then there will be breakdown of junction and the current shoots up. So this is all about the VI characteristics of PN junction diode. And the characteristics we have discussed, that is for the practical diode. And if we see the characteristics of ideal diode, so characteristics are like this: during the forward biasing there will be full conduction and during the reverse biasing there is no conduction. So we can utilize the diode as a switch. During the forward biasing it is acting as a closed switch and during the reverse biasing this is acting as open switch. Then the next component is the Zener diode. So we will be going to discuss about its definition, symbol, breakdown mechanism, graph and the application of Zener diode as a voltage regulator. How we define Zener diode? It is the special purpose PN junction diode that behaves as a voltage regulator when operated during the reverse biasing. So this is the appearance of Zener diode and the symbolic notation, how it is differentiated from the normal PN junction diode. In the normal PN junction diode, in the symbol we have vertical line, and here the symbol is Z. So that is the difference between the symbol of normal and the Zener diode, and the Zener diode looks like this. So it is the property of Zener diode, that is it supports the current flow in both the direction, that is the normal diode current flow, as well as it also supports the backward current flow, but only past the Zener breakdown voltage. So we can have two types of breakdown. One is the Zener breakdown and the another is the avalanche breakdown. So Zener breakdown takes place in the case of heavily doped PN junction diode, and the avalanche breakdown takes place in the case of lightly doped PN junction diode. So what is the effect of doping? If the doping is heavy, the depletion layer will be narrow. But if the doping is light, then the depletion layer will be wide. And we know very important relation, that is E is equal to V divided by D. E is the electrical field, V is the applied voltage, and D here we are considering as the width of the depletion layer. So as we have discussed, there is a narrow depletion layer, means D is small. So D is inversely proportional to E. So if D is small, so obviously E will be comparatively high. So that means a strong electric field will be produced. So strong electric field is the cause of breakdown of junction, and because of the breakdown of covalent bond, the large number of free charge carriers will be generated. And if we go for the light doping, then there is the wider depletion layer. So wider depletion layer means D will be large. So if D will be large, then E will be small, the vice versa relation of this. So that means electric field will not be strong. So we have to apply more and more reverse bias voltage. So that is the cause of breakdown of junction in the avalanche case. So we can understand this avalanche breakdown with the help of case study. So we are taking one example, like let's say if we are applying very high reverse bias voltage, so kinetic energy of electron that becomes very high. So let's say electron is coming with very high kinetic energy, and that is knocking out the electron from the atom by striking with the atom. So one original electron and there will be one knocked out electron will be produced. So one electron is converted to two electrons, one original and the another is the knocked out electron. Now two electrons will strike further two atoms and they will knock out two more electrons from the two atoms. So in total now we can consider four electrons, two original and the two knocked out. And these four electrons further will strike four atoms and they will knock out four further electrons, so total becomes 8. So in this way we can say a chain process will be established. One electron will be converted to 2, 2 will be converted to 4 and 4 will be converted to 8, and because of this chain process the flood of charge carriers will be generated, and that is the cause of breakdown of junction called as avalanche multiplication effect. And this is the graph where we can see the difference between Zener breakdown and the avalanche breakdown in the reverse biasing. The Zener breakdown takes place at less reverse bias voltage, whereas the avalanche breakdown takes place at high reverse bias voltage. And what is the application of Zener diode? We can use the Zener diode as a voltage regulator. So how we can utilize the Zener diode as a voltage regulator? We have to connect the Zener diode that is parallel to the load for which we need the protection. So if we want to protect this resistance acting as load from the fluctuating input voltage, so what we can do is we can connect the Zener diode. So if let's say the voltage is becoming high in the circuit and we need to protect this particular load. So if voltage is becoming high and at that particular high voltage there will be breakdown of this diode, and once the diode gets breakdown the voltage becomes constant and the current shoots up. So in the parallel the voltage is going to remain same. So as in the breakdown region voltage is going to be maintained constant, So same constant voltage will appear across the load. In this way we can protect the load, and that is we can utilize the Zener diode as a voltage regulator. So here we are going to close our discussion, and in the next lecture we will be going to discuss about the rest of the components. Thank you.